Origin of the British royal family, how it all started. The British monarchy is one of the oldest constitutional monarchies in the world. But how did it all start? In this video, we'll take a look at the origin of the British royal family and how they came to be one of the most powerful families in the world. AngloSaxon Period, 800 S 1066. The Anglo-Saxon kingdoms formed the basis of the English monarchy and were united under Alfred the Great's leadership. With the help of the nobles and the church, the king established regulations, collected taxes, and commanded the army. The Witan Council selected new rulers from the royal family. Edgar the Peaceful's coronation set a model for future British coronations. London became the political and commercial capital of England. Harold Godwinson became king in 1066. House of Normandy, 1066-1154. William the Conqueror. William, Duke of Normandy, invaded England in 1066, claiming the throne based on his relation to Emma of Normandy and his wife Matilda's descent from Alfred the Great. After the Battle of Hastings, the Normans built castles and replaced the native Anglo-Saxon aristocracy with a new Anglo-Norman elite. The Normans preserved the sophisticated English government, and English feudalism continued to develop under Norman influence. The monarchy resisted the forces of feudal fragmentation, and the church played a critical role in William's conquest of England. Henry I. After William I's death in 1087, his son Robert Curthose inherited Normandy, while his second son, William II, or Rufus, became King of England. Rufus died in 1100, and Henry I was hastily elected king and promised to rule well, restore the laws of Edward the Confessor, and renounce his brother's unpopular policies. Henry's reign saw the formalization of the royal household and the creation of permanent static departments. The Curia Regis advised the king, and the Justiciar was mainly concerned with royal finance and justice. Henry's reforms transformed medieval government from an itinerant and poorly organized household into a sophisticated administrative kingship. Plantagenets, 1154-1399. Henry II. Henry II, 1154-1189, was the first king of the House of Plantagenet and founded the Angevin Empire, controlling almost half of France. He restored royal authority in a kingdom fractured by civil war, expelled foreign mercenaries, and ordered the demolition of illegal castles. His legal reforms transformed the judicial process into an impersonal legal bureaucracy, with standardized writs available for common legal problems. He also issued the Constitutions of Clarendon, requiring criminous clerks to be punished as laymen and forbidding appeals to the Pope. Henry extended his authority outside of England, invading Wales and receiving the submission of Owain of Gwynedd and Rhys ap Gruffydd of Deheubarth. Richard the Lionheart. Richard I, R. 1189-1199, nicknamed the Lionheart, spent only 6 months in England. He left for the Third Crusade to reconquer Jerusalem, funding the campaign through taxation and selling offices, titles, and land. Concerned that John would usurp power, Richard made him swear to leave England for 3 years, but John broke his oath and was appointed regent after the deposition of William de Longchamp. Richard was imprisoned by Holy Roman Emperor Henry VI for over a year, and upon his return, waged war against Philip II of France. He created the office of coroner and adopted the motto, Dieu est mon droit. Richard died from wounds received while besieging Chalus-Chabrol and named John his successor. John became King of England in 1199, but lost Normandy and other possessions in 1204. He introduced a 13% tax and raised money through court fees and feudal incidents. His relationship with the barons broke down due to his favoritism and paranoia. He was excommunicated in 1209 after quarreling with the Pope. In 1213, John became the Pope's vassal, weakening his power. He was defeated in the Anglo-French War of 1213 to 1214. In 1215, he agreed to the Magna Carta, which limited his powers. He appealed to the Pope and started the First Barons' War. John died abruptly in 1216 during the collapse of royal authority. Henry III. Henry III's reign saw the reissuing of Magna Carta and the beginning of parliamentary meetings. He was known for being dominated by foreign favorites, leading to opposition and the provisions of Oxford. Simon de Montfort led a rebellion against the king in the Second Barons' War. Henry III died in 1272 after a long and turbulent reign, during which he spent heavily on royal palaces. Edward, Richard III. Edward I conquered Wales and summoned Parliament twice a year. Edward II was deposed and murdered, while Edward III won the Battle of Crecy and founded the Order of the Garter. Richard II. Richard II was a young king who ruled with the advice of a 12-member council. His government was dominated by his uncles and courtiers. He faced resentment over poll taxes that led to the Peasants' Revolt. He was also criticized for his lavish spending and favoritism towards Robert de Vere. In 1386, he was reduced to a figurehead, and his favorites were convicted of treason. Richard resumed royal authority in 1389 and ruled well for a time. He became a tyrant and used extortion to gain forced loans from his subjects. In 1399, he was deposed by Parliament and succeeded by Henry Bolingbroke. House of Lancaster, 1399–1461. Henry V's reign was largely free from domestic strife, and he pursued the last phase of the 100 Years' War with France. He won a legendary victory at the Battle of Agincourt and conquered Normandy. In 1420, he became heir and regent of France through the Treaty of Troyes and married the French princess Catherine of Valois. Henry V was a popular king who restored royal authority and lowered crime. His frequent absences from England created difficulties. After his death, his infant son Henry VI inherited the English and French crowns, leading to the weakening of the House of Lancaster and a challenge from the House of York. House of York, 1461–1485. The Yorkists, led by Edward IV, overthrew Henry VI and Margaret of Anjou in 1461, but the Wars of the Roses continued intermittently during his reign, and those of his son Edward V and brother Richard III. The conflict culminated in success for the Lancastrian branch led by Henry Tudor in 1485, when Richard III was killed in the Battle of Bosworth Field. Tudor's 1485–1603, King Henry VII neutralized the remaining Yorkist forces by marrying Elizabeth of York, a Yorkist heir. He re-established absolute supremacy in the realm and ended conflicts with the nobility. Henry VIII's reign was marked by religious upheaval and disputes with the Pope. He established the Church of England and annexed Wales to England. Edward VI continued with further religious reforms, but his early death in 1553 precipitated a succession crisis. Mary Gueux attempted to return England to Roman Catholicism and pursued disastrous wars in France. Upon her death in 1558, her Protestant half-sister Elizabeth I succeeded her, and England returned to Protestantism. It continued to grow into a major world power by building its navy and exploring the New World, Union of the Crowns. Elizabeth I's death in 1603 ended Tudor's rule in England. She was succeeded by James VI, who ruled in England as James I after the Union of the Crowns. Charles I's attempt to enforce Anglicanism led to the English Civil War, which culminated in the execution of the king in 1649 and the establishment of the Commonwealth of England. The monarchy was restored in 1660, and England and Scotland were united as the Kingdom of Great Britain under Queen Anne in 1707. The Glorious Revolution in 1688 affirmed parliamentary supremacy and required future monarchs to be Protestants. The Act of Settlement 1701 excluded James and his Catholic relations from the succession and made William's nearest Protestant relations, the family of Sophia, Electress of Hanover, next in line to the throne. The Acts of Union 1707 united England and Scotland into a single kingdom with succession under the rules prescribed by the Act of Settlement. After the 1707 Acts of Union, George then defeated Jacobite rebellions during his reign and saw power shift towards his ministers, including Sir Robert Walpole. George II witnessed the end of the Jacobite threat, while George III's reign saw the loss of Britain's American colonies and the creation of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. During William IV's reign, the Reform Act 1832 expanded the electoral franchise and strengthened the House of Commons. Victoria's reign marked the transition to a constitutional monarchy and the establishment of the UK as a world power. Edward VII became the first monarch of the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha and changed the name to Windsor. George V oversaw the separation of Ireland into Northern Ireland and the Irish Free State. Shared monarchy and modern status. During the 20th century, the Commonwealth of Nations evolved from the British Empire. The Balfour Declaration of 1926 and the Statute of Westminster in 1931 granted self-government to the dominions and solidified a system where a single monarch operated independently in each dominion. Edward VIII's abdication led to the crown passing to his brother George VI, who served as a rallying figure during World War II and relinquished the title Emperor of India. The British monarch was acknowledged as head of the Commonwealth in all member states, whether they were realms or republics. Despite growing republicanism in the UK during the 1990s, polls have consistently shown strong public support for the monarchy since 2002, with around 70 to 80% of the British public in favor of its continuation, and this support has remained constant since then.